Diaz stands in an endless prairie of grass, a stark change from the capital city he left a month ago. His carriage driver drops him off, muttering that this desolate wasteland fits an upstart orphan, and hands him a territory map and imperial inventory before announcing his new official title, Diaz Nez Rose. Left alone, Diaz looks over his new home. The king granted him this land for his exploits during the Long War, and though Diaz knows little about nobility, he understands a lord must protect his subjects and collect taxes. Finding a clean stream, he feels a wave of gratitude, remembering the muddy water of the battlefield. He walks a great distance without seeing a single person or tree. When night falls, Diaz sits in the dark and contemplates his bleak future. He decides to give the plains 2 more days. If things remain hopeless, he will leave before he starves and find a village where he can be useful and honor his parents' final wishes. The next morning, a sharp voice breaks the silence. A young girl named Alna stands over him, shouting for him to wake up and demanding to know what he is doing out here. Diaz introduces himself and explains he was just sleeping on the ground because he has nowhere else to go. Alna remains suspicious and demands to know his ultimate purpose. Diaz explains he was ordered to live here and just wants to survive. When she demands a serious answer, Diaz speaks from the heart, stating he wants to fulfill his parents' wishes by protecting the weak and being useful. Alna looks confused and asks why he is not lying. Diaz shrugs, saying he has no reason to. Alna steps closer, demanding to know if he is an ally or an enemy. Realizing this prairie is his domain and this girl must be one of his subjects, Diaz confidently declares he is her ally and promises to protect her from any foe. The moment he speaks, the horn on Alna's head shines with a brilliant light. Shocked by the strength of his aura, Alna grabs his hand and tells him to follow her across the plains. They run until a hidden village suddenly appears. Diaz is amazed he missed an entire settlement the day before. Alna drags him to the center of the village to meet the chieftain, an elder named Mal. Mal notes it is unusual for Alna to bring an outsider, asking if her horn detected a red aura. Alna explains there was no red, but rather an intense blue light when he claimed to be an ally. Mal asks the stranger for his name. Diaz introduces himself, and Mal asks if Diaz will be an ally to him as well. Diaz agrees, explaining he considers everyone here his subjects because the king sent him to be the lord of these lands. The mention of the king infuriates Alna, but Mal calms her down and asks Diaz to explain exactly how he received this order. Diaz accommodates the chieftain's request and shares his life story. He explains that during his childhood, his mother always told him to do work that other people found useful, while his father instructed him to become a man who protects the weak. He then narrates that when he was 10 years old, both of his parents died in a terrible epidemic. When he was 15, a war broke out and enemy troops quickly reached the neighboring town. To protect his friends, he volunteered to become a soldier. He consistently distinguished himself in battle across 20 long years of warfare until the conflict finally ended and the king granted him this grassland domain for his service. Mal is convinced Diaz genuinely wants to protect people, but asks if he would still be an ally if they turned out not to be his subjects. Diaz answers without hesitation, stating they would still be neighbors on the same prairie, so he would gladly help them. Mal smiles and reveals the truth. They are not his subjects, but historical enemies of the kingdom. 50 years ago, the Anakin tribe lost a battle and fled to these lands. Mal explains they store magical energy in their horns to cast concealment magic, hiding the entire village from outside eyes. Mal notes he only shared this secret because Diaz's aura was pure blue. Mal explains that the Anakin possess a unique spell called Soul Appraisal, which reveals a person's inner intent through the changing color of their horn. A red glow indicates imminent danger or deep malice hidden within a person's heart. Conversely, a white light represents a harmless nature that is free of any hostile intent. Finally, he notes that a brilliant blue aura signifies a pure soul who will bring immense joy or great blessings to everyone they encounter. Mal admits he has never met a fool so honest that he still lives strictly by his parents' dying wishes. He offers to provide food, shelter, and livestock to help Diaz survive. In return, he demands Diaz keep the village a secret from the king. Diaz agrees, having no personal problem with the Anakin. To cement the arrangement, Mal assigns Alna to work as Diaz's personal caretaker. Both Alna and Diaz object in shock, but Mal firmly tells Alna that the stranger is her responsibility. The village men quickly construct a traditional nomadic house for Diaz. Alna explains that the tribe lives in these portable structures, called yurts, so they can quickly dismantle them and flee danger. Alna promises the tribe will deliver food and a pair of livestock called bars, which will provide a steady income if bred properly. When Diaz asks how to gather human subjects, Alna snaps that he only has one yurt and minimal food, meaning new people would simply starve. Calling him a loony lord, she hands him a pouch of matani dust, explaining its scent attracts wild beasts. If he hunts them, he can trade the meat and hides back to the village for more yurts. Diaz grows excited, boasting that he is an excellent hunter. He travels a safe distance from the village and dumps the entire pouch of dust onto the grass. Within moments, a massive herd of buffalo-like beasts charges over the horizon. Relying on his combat instincts and brute strength, Diaz charges into the fray with his massive battle axe. He slaughters a staggering number of beasts while the rest scatter. However, looking at the pile of carcasses, Diaz realizes he cannot carry 40 large animals back alone. He drags just one beast back to camp, dreading Alna's judgmental glare. To his surprise, Alna is filled with joy upon seeing the carcass, praising him for bringing down a black ghee on his first hunt. When Diaz clarifies that he killed about half the herd but could not carry them all, a stunned Alna is completely amazed, and her opinion of him changes for the better. Mal walks over and praises Diaz for demonstrating his true manliness. An ecstatic Alna agrees, calling his strength incredible before rushing off to gather the village men to harvest the remaining carcasses. Left alone with the chieftain, Diaz asks what the Anakin mean by manliness. Mal explains it represents a man's value as a reliable provider and hard worker. Diaz remarks that back in the kingdom, women care about looks and charming conversation. Mal scoffs, asking if handsome features can fill an empty belly, noting that anything outside of true utility holds zero value to an Anakin woman. Mal adds that Alna is a great beauty and hard worker, meaning her expected wedding gift would normally be exceptionally high. Diaz frantically waves his hands, stammering that marriage is against his intentions. Mal tells him not to worry, casually mentioning that Anakin and humans can successfully have children together. The following morning, Alna serves Diaz breakfast and eagerly asks what he plans to hunt today. Diaz asks if yesterday's haul is not enough, but Alna explains that to attract new subjects, he will need to build a water well and a privy. To get the village craftsmen to build them, he needs a wider variety of trade goods. She suggests hunting a dangerous monster, noting that while the meat is contaminated with miasma, their claws, horns, and core magic stones fetch a premium price. Alna offers to use her tracking magic so they can hunt together. Diaz immediately refuses to put her in danger, telling her to stay behind, but Alna insists it will be more fun as a duo, and Diaz reluctantly agrees. Before heading out, Diaz grooms his two bars, naming them Francis and Francoise. Suddenly, Alna emerges from the yurt wearing striking makeup that enhances her features. A flustered Diaz stammers that they should get moving. As they trek through the wilderness, Alna casts a detection spell and announces she has located a large monster nearby. Diaz tells her to stay back, but Alna reminds him she can cast concealment magic if things go wrong, so they move forward together. They crest a hill and spot a heavily armored creature. Diaz asks if it is just a giant turtle, but Alna gasps in terror, correcting him that it is a legendary earth dragon. Completely unfazed, Diaz charges forward and slams his battle axe down, but the weapon bounces right off the tough hide. The dragon shields its weak spots, and Alna screams for him to run. Diaz refuses, declaring his style is to strike repeatedly when a single blow fails. As he strikes, his weapon chips, but he steps back and casts a mending spell, instantly repairing the metal. From the sidelines, Alna begins to tremble as the intense miasma radiates from the dragon, eating away her energy. Diaz notices her shivering and decides to finish the fight quickly. Channeling every ounce of his strength, he delivers a desperate swing that shatters the dragon's rocky defenses. The enraged beast opens its jaws and spits torrents of fire. Diaz ducks under the flames, but the dragon shifts its gaze and aims its next blast directly at the weakened Alna. Remembering his oath to protect her, Diaz lunges forward with unmatched speed, swinging his axe with fury to deliver a lethal blow that cleaves through the monster. As the corpse collapses, Diaz rushes to check on Alna. She throws her arms around him, squeezing him tightly. Overcome with admiration for him, she declares right then and there that she is going to marry him. Following the sudden declaration of marriage on the battlefield, the story shifts back to the village as the community gathers to process the spoils of a legendary hunt. The village men transport the massive corpse into the settlement, cheering that Diaz slew an earth dragon single-handedly. Diaz reflects on the exhausting ordeal, noting that moving the giant beast kept them busy until morning. Looking at the cheering crowd, he wonders why everyone is so excited. Mal approaches, admitting it's hard to believe Diaz defeated such a legendary monster alone. Diaz proposes a trade to the chieftain, a well and a privy in exchange for resources from the dragon. When he asks if the carcass will cover the cost, Mal laughs, explaining that just a single leg would pay for a whole slew of wells and privies. A surprised Diaz asks if the monster is truly that valuable. Mal confirms the dragon is worth far more than the village can accommodate, meaning they will return the vast majority of the materials. The chieftain counters with a generous offer, detailing that the village will provide full butchering services for the giant beast. He promises to handle the construction of a personal water well and a privy, along with supplying high-quality yurt-building materials and steady food provisions. To complete the trade, Mal includes a regular supply of medicinal herbs and an entirely separate yurt for Diaz to use specifically as a storehouse. Diaz smiles warmly, deeply appreciating their support. Mal also advises Diaz to set aside a small portion of the remaining materials for Alna's formal wedding gift, noting her parents would be overjoyed to receive a single claw or fang. Diaz panics, asking what this marriage talk is about. Mal firmly explains that Diaz is getting married whether he likes it or not. The village wants close ties with their powerful neighbor. He adds that if Diaz refuses Alna, every woman in the village will start calling on him. Diaz admits that would be a problem. Mal tells him not to worry, as Alna is already discussing the details with her parents. Hoping for a compromise, Diaz asks if they can just say they are engaged. Mal explains that the Anakin tribe doesn't practice engagements, people simply marry, though Diaz can decide the ceremony's timing. Mal adds that closer ties will help the village guide Diaz into becoming a superb lord. When Diaz asks why they care so much, Mal explains that if he fails, a terrible ruler might replace him, recalling how the previous good-for-nothing lord recently died of an illness. Walking through the village, Diaz overhears locals gossiping about how well Alna has done for her age. Curious, he asks how old she is. The villagers happily reveal she just turned 15. Diaz stands speechless and horrified, realizing that at 35, he is old enough to be her father. Knowing kingdom law requires a minimum age of 18 to marry, Diaz calculates that a 3-year engagement will buy him time to become a full-fledged lord. Suddenly, Alna runs up, excitedly announcing that everything is arranged with her family before sweetly asking what he wants for breakfast. Diaz smiles and says he'll eat anything she makes. Despite his plans, the village completely ignores the concept of an engagement, and the formal wedding is carried out that very night. Villagers gather around the bride, praising her beauty and envying Diaz's luck. Diaz desperately protests to the crowd that they are merely engaged, but the laughing villagers simply tell the dragon slayer not to be shy. Sometime after the wedding banquet, the new well and privy are completed, and a peaceful routine begins. While working on a new structure, Diaz reflects that his first building attempt isn't bad, but notes he must improve his crafting skills so future subjects won't have to sleep outdoors. Alna suddenly runs up, warning that her life detection spell spotted a lone monster approaching from the north. Determined to protect their new assets, Diaz declares he will take it down. Alna insists on joining him, arguing they should face threats together. In the fields, Diaz identifies the target as an ogre. Alna notes that an ogre's materials smell too foul to have any practical use, meaning they will gain nothing from the hunt. Still, they must stop it. Coordinating perfectly, Alna unleashes her magic to restrict the beast, and Diaz slays it with a single swing. Alna praises the victory, reminding him it's better to fight together as husband and wife. Diaz tries to correct her, but Alna cuts him off, complaining about the terrible stench of the ogre blood. She orders him to wash up immediately, banning him from the yurt until the smell is gone. By the time Diaz finishes scrubbing in the stream, evening has fallen, and he sighs at how difficult it is to remove the odor. The next morning, Alna rushes out of the yurt, joyfully announcing that they are pregnant at last. A stunned Diaz cheers and rushes over to pamper their livestock, praising Françoise and Francis. However, Alna turns serious, explaining the situation isn't entirely good news. She reminds him that bars are highly intelligent, making them incredibly susceptible to fatal stress during pregnancy. To reassure them, the strongest member of the herd, Diaz, must stay constantly nearby. She warns that Francis and Françoise will have to live directly inside the yurt with them, meaning things will get messy, smelly, and testing for their relationship. Diaz smiles warmly, assuring her that the mess doesn't bother him. To him, the bars are family, and a little smell is nothing compared to a safe birth. Overjoyed, Alna praises his kindness, proudly declaring him her true husband. Suddenly, Alna's horn glows green, signaling a group of 10 humans and horses approaching from the east. Recognizing that the royal capital lies in that direction, Diaz instructs Alna to hide inside with the bars while he goes to investigate. Diaz scouts the group, counting 3 cavaliers and 4 infantrymen. As he draws close, a soldier named Klaus happily calls out to him. Diaz recognizes his old war buddy, who is thrilled to see a comrade moving up in the world. When Diaz asks what brings him to the frontier, Klaus explains he is escorting a noble lady and asks to rest at Diaz's manor after their grueling journey. Leading them back, Diaz is glad he kept the Anakin tribe a secret to avoid unnecessary complications with the kingdom. Inside his lone tent, the noble lady introduces herself as Diane, the 3rd princess of the kingdom. Diaz listens as Diane looks around and asks where his grand manor and servants are. He corrects her, explaining this self-built yurt is all he owns. Diane is shocked, believing her father had granted him massive starting capital. Diaz clarifies the grim reality. The kingdom dumped him in the plains without a single copper or any food and water. When he asks her true purpose, Diane reveals that cries for a new war are rising in the capital. She requests his military assistance as a legendary hero, offering her hand in marriage as an incentive. Diaz firmly refuses. He has no intention of abandoning his pregnant livestock, views marrying a stranger as no reward, and has no subjects to form an army. Infuriated by the blunt rejection, a royal soldier draws his weapon and lunges at Diaz. Diaz effortlessly parries the strike, shattering the steel sword with ease, and sternly orders the party to leave immediately. Klaus steps in to defuse the tension, warning the princess and guards that they stand no chance against the kingdom's savior. As the royal party retreats, Diane furiously shouts that Diaz will regret turning her away. Meanwhile, Diaz groans at his damaged floor matting, dreading Alna's reaction to the mess. Once the party rides off, Alna drops her concealment magic. She reveals that the noblewoman emitted a hostile red aura, while Klaus shone a trustworthy blue. After Diaz apologizes to the bars for leaving their side, Alna points directly to the ruined floor matting, prompting a guilty apology from her husband. The next morning, Alna detects a lone human wandering aimlessly from the east. She accompanies Diaz under a concealment spell to keep the bars calm. They find Klaus, who is lost, weaponless, and stripped of his military armor. Klaus explains he got himself dismissed from service to avoid being sent to the front lines of the upcoming war. Looking at Diaz with deep respect, he asks to be hired as his personal soldier. Diaz recalls Klaus's loyalty and reliability on the battlefield, realizing how reassuring it would be to have him around. Before he can answer, Alna reveals herself, approving of Klaus due to his pure blue aura. Klaus panics at the sudden appearance of the woman and the strange sheep. Diaz cracks a smile, noting it is going to be a very long story, and invites his very first official subject back to camp.